Hello, CSL. We are back today. Not to talk about trades this time or crazy antics going on before the trade deadline. We are actually here to talk about the big show before the trade deadline, and that is the All Star game. As you can probably see on my screen now, the voting has opened, it has begun, and as usual, we're back here talking about it. Who should be in the All Star game? Who shouldn't? Who are we going to disagree with? Who are we going to agree with? All of that craziness is going to happen, and I'm joined by sort of by our friend Gary from the Washington Wizards, who helped me out with this last year. Gary, are you ready to talk All Star?
Sure, man. Let's do it.
Okay, so plan is as usual is for those of you who didn't catch last year's one is essentially what we'll do is we'll go through East and Western Conference and we'll both pitch to each other who we think should be in the various starting roles. If we've got a disagreement, we'll see if we can come to an agreement, and we'll kind of go from there really. So Gary, should we start with the Eastern Conference because in my head I think that's the easier one of the two this year.
Yeah, when I was looking at the voting ballot, it's actually, there's not as many like top level guys. There's a lot more depth, but it's pretty easy to pick out the more standout ones, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think so too. And I'm sure we're saying this now, but we're going to have some disagreements. But should we
Of
start with the
course.
guard position? Because for me, I've got two guys down here, and who I think are worthy of that position. And uh, I mean, there was one other guy, and I'm guarantee that you are going to put this guy in your ballot that I could have put in, but I didn't. But I'm gonna start off with my first guard position, and that is going to be, I'll put him up on screen for you to see, Mr. PJ Dozier, who has been
Oh,
performing really well for the Miami Heat. And for those of you who are probably sitting there shouting at your screens, going, "Why on earth have you picked him?" Let me just put his stat line up for you, so you can know. So, 16.9 points per game, 6.5 rebounds, 5 assists, just under half a block and half a steal. But his shooting is 43%, which is probably only his only negative point. But I think that he's been really essential to the Miami Heat performance this year, outside of Ben Simmons, obviously. Gary, did you have him down?
I didn't, but like he definitely has a unique kind of player because there's not that many kind of players in this CSL DDS engine that can they provide so much assists, rebounds, and scoring at the same time. And honestly, I think that his defensive stats, like turnover stats, would even increase even more if they didn't run a zone all the time. So
Yeah, I kind of agree, but for me, I just love the game that he brings. So he's on 5 assists per game on 1.5 turnovers. So his assist to turnover ratio is pretty good. He's he's getting rebounds like a madman for someone
yep.
who's 6'7", 191 pounds, and he's also chipping in with some point scoring. It's improved from last year. His percentages are slightly up, but for me, just his all round game just warrants an all star selection.
Yeah, he's definitely like I guess, kind of like a poor man, real life Westbrook. Just kind of does a little bit of everything. Not the most efficient player on earth, but he does a little bit of everything. And it's really interesting too because I play against Miami, 4 times a year, and I play against this guy. Second year I play against him now, and he pretty much uses him everywhere from 1 to 4. The only position he hasn't been playing is center. I'm sure he might pull it out eventually one day, but Dozier is one of those guys who can just pretty much play everywhere. So he's pretty unique for sure.
Yeah, I think so. And that Westbrook comparison was probably spot on actually. If I had to compare him to a real life player, he's probably
Yep.
a young Westbrook because you kind of expect him to naturally progress into his points are expected to go up, his rebounds you kind of expect to go up, but you still expect him to keep that nice assist line really going. So yeah, that's who I've got. I mean, who have you got in one of your guard positions?
The first one I'm gonna go with the obvious one. De'Aaron Fox from Boston. The best team in the East right now, and that guy's pretty much the leader of that team. He's averaging around 19 points. He's only 27.5 minutes per game, 6.6 assists per game, 2.7 rebounds, 1.2 steals on almost 50% shooting and 44% from three. I mean, that just efficiency. he's pretty much just the leader of that team so far.
Yeah, I mean, I have to agree. He has been one of the driving forces behind the Boston Celtics this year, and really has helped propel them into the Eastern Elite. To be honest with you, so yeah, I mean, I didn't have him down. He was the one who I knew you would say didn't have down. The reason I didn't put him down though was not because I didn't think he'd served an All-Star section. I absolutely agree, and he probably does. But I wanted to just pitch for you because I know you can't vote for him, but I can vote for him. Mr. Milos Teodosic. You've had a good season so far. You're in the positive win record. His numbers haven't been as good as where they have been for the previous 2 years for you guys. But for me, when I looked at the Washington Wizards and sort of trying to assess really how you guys have been performing, fairly well this year, looking like a solid playoff team. He's the one that sticks out. And when I look at his numbers in comparison to Fox, it's very similar. I mean, not on the steals front, but on the assists and on the scoring front. His percentages are slightly down in comparison to Fox, but just wanted to sort of see how do you compare him to Fox? Do you see him as a similar type of player, or do you feel that Fox has kind of edged it this year in the All-Star voting?
I'm gonna be non-biased about it. Then I think Fox is a little bit better, but I also feel that Fox is a better supporting cast on my team. I think that Fox got guys like Scal and other guys such as
Hmm.
Aaron Gordon, Tristan Thompson to help him out. Milos pretty much is my number one go-to option in this team, and it was actually doing a lot better like a couple of weeks ago, but recently he has a few bad games and just kind of, especially including that 1 for 10 3-point shooting performance like 2 games ago. So kind of messed with his percentages down, but he was actually doing really efficient earlier the year. And I mean, he's definitely the leader of my team. He's been for the past 3 years now.
Hmm.
And I mean, Fox, I think is you just I'm not being biased. And Fox is having a better year because he's more efficient and putting up similar numbers in less minutes. And Boston's a better team, but I think Milos definitely deserve a chance of being a reserve All Star because he's definitely the driving force for my team. So
Yeah. I think I kind of see what you're saying in that De'Aaron Fox has kind of had a really good season, and Milos is probably quite close to him, but probably if you're looking at the two in comparison to who do you want to be that starting point guard for the Eastern Conference, it probably is Fox this year because of his performance. So
yep.
I guess in terms of, I had PJ Dozier down as my other guard. Who did you have down as your other guard?
Well, originally I had Damian Lillard, but then he died, so that didn't help because he was having a really good year too.
Yeah, he was.
Like,
Uh,
like Hawks started off really hot too. I don't know what happened to him. He started off really hot and just kind of went downhill. But he was doing really well when he playing for the Hawks. He was averaging, let's see, like what, 21 points a game? Yeah, almost 21 and a half points a game, 4.9 assists, 3 rebounds, shooting 41% from the three, 88% from the free throw line in under 30 minutes a game. Like, there's a lot of efficient point guards. So I noticed, like, guys not playing huge minutes in the Eastern Conference, they actually put in good numbers though. So.
yeah, so I guess with Lillard out the picture because of his unfortunate injury,
Yep.
who is your bench guard then? Who'd be the one you would want to step up into his role?
Ideally, let's look at Corey Joseph from Toronto. He's having a pretty solid year as well. He's averaging around 17.7 points per game, 4.9 assists, 3.5 rebounds, shooting 45% from the field, 80% from the free throw line, and 42% from the three. I mean, he has been pretty much the machine for the Raptors. I played against Raptors a couple of times already. Every time I play against Joseph, he puts up good numbers. And they have had some injury problems recently too, and they had to push Joseph to like 40 minutes a game. He was still putting up crazy numbers. He even got a triple double this year. So, it's how hard are those are coming by this file. So it's pretty impressive.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I'll be honest with you. I hadn't considered Corey Joseph that much this year. Probably because I just bypassed him and didn't think about him because I don't really follow the Raptors that much, to be honest with you, at the moment.
A lot of Eastern Conference teams already noticed a lot of more team concept this year than like.
Yeah.
A lot of teams are running big rotations, about like 30 under 30 minutes a game on the starters. That's why you don't see many guys that have like eye popping stats.
No, no, and I think that kind of makes it difficult because you probably had Fox and Lillard as the locks because they were getting solid minutes and putting up solid enough numbers. Um, yeah, okay, I'll concede. I'll concede. I'll take PJ Dozier out and I'll put Corey Joseph in. I can see that. He has been a big piece of the Toronto Raptors this year, and
Yep.
looking at his numbers, he's kind of stepping up to the mark. And I'll tell you what did it for me, Gary. It was the triple double.
Yeah, there's
You
only
know,
4 guys with triple double this year, so he's one of them.
yeah. That kind of edges it for me. That shows that he's stepped up to the mark when the Raptors have needed him.
Yep, definitely. He improved a lot since the beginning of his career. So.
Oh, massively. I mean, from where he was to where he is now, I mean, he's probably one of the better guards in the Eastern Conference comfortably. I mean,
Yep.
even without Lillard being injured and stuff, he would certainly have made the ballot and been one of the top 3 or 4 guys within that guard position, I think. So,
Yep.
let me just whilst we're talking about him, just to throw his stat line for him. So he would when he was first started in Toronto, his numbers were 40% shooting off of 6 points per game, playing 15 minutes, and he was like that for 2 years, and then he got a bit of a jump in his playing time, but his shooting went from 43% to 48%, and his 3-point range went from 32% to 35%. With his, he's that's just a huge jump. His assist numbers, this is the bit that got me. His assist numbers went from 2.8 assists per game to 6 assists per game. So he almost trebled his assists, even though his playing time only just doubled, just under
Yep.
doubled. So that's madness. But it
Yeah.
just shows that you can draft a guy, and if he develops, you can really get great value out of them.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. Chile before he retired, he did a really good job doing preference work on him, and it finally paid
Yeah,
off.
yeah, absolutely. So let's move on to the guard, not the guard, the forward positions. So I'll let you start this one. Who was one of the forwards that you had down as a lock for the Eastern Conference?
I think a lot everybody can agree would be Ben Simmons. This guy's finally, having his career year, averaging almost 24 points a game, 5 assists as a power forward, 9.7 rebounds, 1.2 blocks, almost 55% shooting from the three. I mean, this guy was just absolutely phenomenal this year.
Yeah, he has slight uptick in minutes, but he's developing to everything that we thought he would be. In
Only 21 years old.
yeah, it's scary. I mean, he is it fair to say he's probably the best player in the league already at 21?
At that age, yeah, I think the only guy that was comparable back then was Dante Exum.
Yeah, it's just madness, absolute madness.
Him and they got a bunch of those type of guys too. They got him and PJ Dozier. I mean, good lord.
Yeah, I mean, he's averaging a block a game on 10 zone. I mean, that's
Yeah.
mental. So nearly a double double on zone as well. I mean, yeah, he's everything across the board has improved, or his turnovers have gone down slightly. I mean, the only thing that hasn't is his rebounding by like minimal amount, but that's probably a strategy change. So yeah, I had him down as a lock, and I've written Ben Simmons lock next to him because I kind of expected you to say him.
Yeah.
Yeah. What more can we say? I mean, the Miami Heat are going to be dangerous this year, and it's mainly because of that guy. So we'll
Absolutely.
see. So one of the guys that I had down, I have him down as sort of a medium lock if I had to sort of pick.
Okay.
It's Mr. Lauri Markkanen from the Chicago Bulls.
Yeah, I have him down too.
Again, similar to Simmons in that he's in his second year. He's improved across the board in everything. Turnovers are slightly up, but that's minimal. But he's averaging 21 points per game, 8 rebounds, an assist, and then point of a block and a point of a steal per game. But it's that scoring number that's just jumped, and he's shooting better. He's shooting. Let me put it this way: he's taken more or less an extra 0.5 of a shot from 3-point range, and his 3-point percentage has gone up from 34% to nearly 50%, which is huge.
Yep.
Yeah, but I mean, anything you want to add on him apart from the fact that he is just becoming a proper franchise player for the Bulls?
Yeah, he's really interesting because I know a lot of throughout the years, the draft team always trying to build a guy that's kind of like a real life Dirk Nowitzki model, and most of them has failed. Like guys like Jokic and Sarge and stuff like that, they all just fade away into role player at best. But Markkinen is actually turning out into a real life Dirk Nowitzki. I mean, look at his shooting split: 53% from the field, 88% from the free throw line, and almost 49% from the three. I mean, if Marcus starts throwing some 3-point instruction on this guy can easily be a prime Dirk. He can rebound. He got the size. He can score anywhere on the court, and he can rebound too. So just like a real life Dirk.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing that has impressed me the most is that he can rebound. You mentioned a couple of players there. We've seen in the past either the player swings too much to being a 3 and D kind of guy, really, when they try to mirror Dirk Nowitzki, or trying to be a person who is a scorer and has range but can't rebound. And it seems like they've got the mix quite nicely, right? With Laurie, in that he can score, he can rebound. His assist numbers, he's getting an assist a game. That's not bad considering the position he plays. So that's a
Yep.
benefit. And yeah, I mean, yeah, another really good sort of sophomore in his second year, performing really well and outplaying some of the veterans in the Eastern Conference to be an all-star. I mean, would you necessarily have thought sitting here that Fox, Markkanen, and Simmons would all be in all-star reckoning at this early stage?
Honestly, not with Markin and a Fox. Simmons, I kind of expected it because he came in the league with like one of the most hype I've ever seen from a draft class, and he came in with really good ratings already. So.
Mm-hmm.
But the other two, no, not so much. I mean, a lot of people criticize about the Fox pick when we're looking back at it. Let's be honest. So
Yeah. A lot of people thought that who is the other guard? Who is the other guard that people thought was better than Fox? I can't remember now.
I think it was either I think it was is it Dennis Smith?
Yes, Dennis Smith. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah,
And he's on the Heat now as well. But I mean,
he's
he's
doing
not
good
having a
there too.
bad career, but nowhere near as good as Fox.
Nope.
Yeah. Okay. So this is going fairly easy for the Eastern Conference, I have to say. We've
Yeah.
currently got 4 guys that we kind of all agree on. I did not expect that.
There's
And
one
then
more guy I want to mention for
yeah.
the front court spot. It'd be the old school OG Blake Griffin. I mean, this guy once again is putting up typical numbers that Blake Griffin does: 21.7 points a game, almost 10 rebounds per game, 1.2 steals per game, 52% shooting, in under 30 minutes per game. He's being efficient and just being good old Blake.
Yeah, and I it's like you've read my sheet, Gary, because I had him down as well as my other pick
He's
for
just a
the
lot
year.
easier, I'm telling
This
you.
is this is way too easy this year. I say last year we were arguing over every single position, but yeah, I mean, I had Blake Griffin down as well, just performing really well, doing Blake Griffin things. Nothing really. I wouldn't say nothing too exciting, but if it was another player, we'd be really excited about some of his ratings and that he's putting out. So
He's getting
yeah,
tired of him. The same every year.
yeah, he has been in every year, so I think, since he's joined the league. So
Yeah.
I mean, there is one player that I just want to talk about. I didn't have him down as a starter, but just one player I just want to shout out because I don't think he's going to necessarily be voted as a starter in the All Star game, but he's a player who I feel finally should get a vote in the All Star game, and that is Pascal Siakam.
Ah, okay.
And I know I pitched him last year, and I'm going to pitch him again this year because he's got even better this year. So his shooting numbers are up. He's averaging 10 points per game, 11 rebounds per game, an assist, a block, and just under a steal a game, which just shows how good a glue guy he is.
Yep.
Um, he's not a particularly brilliant scorer. He can score. He's a really good rebounder. He mixes it up on both sides of the floor, and I think that he deserves some recognition this year.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, the Nets are having a really good year, and they're one of those teams similar to us that just kind of like run a big rotation. But Siakam has been putting up some really good numbers. I mean, I think is he leading the league in rebounding right now? I don't remember
I
exactly,
don't
but
know actually.
I think he's definitely top two or top three because I don't think there's many people that has 11 more than like 11 rebounds per game period. So, and he's averaging 4 offensive rebounds per game, dude. That's huge because, like I talked to Rizzo and the other GMs in the chat room, the Nets win ugly ball. They have big men that just go in there and clean up all the rebounds and just grind you out. And he's the perfect example of that. Grinding basketball.
Yeah, yeah. Just to clarify, he is topping the rebounding charts at the moment.
Yeah,
So
he's the rebounding king so far.
yeah,
So
yeah. I mean, you kind of hit the nail on the head again there. I mean, the backcourt for the Brooklyn Nets is not particularly great, but the front court is really good.
yeah,
In that they have Aiton, Turner, Siakam, Mickey, just that's a solid rotation in itself. I mean, it's probably one of the reasons why they have shopped Turner around a little bit at the beginning of this year is because Siakam has been playing so well for them, and they obviously going to be invested in Aiton because they picked him last year. So yeah, I mean, for me, Siakam deserves a bit of a shout out for the Eastern Conference vote, but he's probably not going to make the starters. But I would expect to see him in the bench at least.
yeah, he's one of those guys that could borderline get in for sure. It depends on how you view it, like your criteria. Like for me, for example, in the All Star game, I prefer guys that are in the playoff race. That's just me, though. You know.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I had a discussion with Miles a couple of years ago about this, and he was more like on the lines of just I want players who are just performing really, really well. Doesn't matter how their team's doing, but for me, it's down to the team needs to be performing well because the stats need to matter. If the stats don't matter, then why should they be in the biggest showcase of the year? Really.
Yeah,
Um,
it's definitely one of the cases like the Orlando Magic. And look at George DePaul is having a great year, but unfortunately they're 23 and 28. So that's why I didn't pick him. But he was really close. I almost picked him in. Same with Jabari Parker, scoring god. But the Sixer sucks. So
yeah, I mean, we can talk about the Sixers throughout the season, but it just shows how much of an impact Lonzo Ball has on that team.
yeah,
Obviously his injury and he's back now, but just they were falling like a freight train falling off of a cliff. I mean, interesting to see that one player has such an impact on a franchise, and it's not the
yep,
one you would necessarily expect.
yep.
Okay, so I guess we're kind of set on the East End. So if we're going De'Aaron Fox, Corey Joseph, Blake Griffin, Laurie Markkinen, and Ben Simmons. I mean, that was easy.
Yep.
Do we think the West is going to be the same though?
No, I think the West has a lot more star power this year, especially with all the big trades that happened.
Yeah, there has been some big trades. So, do you want to kick it off then? Who is your perennial guard for the Western Conference this year?
The perennial guard. That's a good question. Usually I would say Paul George, but the Mavericks sucks this year, so
Yeah, yeah.
I didn't have him as a Sherlock, unfortunately. The one guy I would say though is Isaiah Taylor. We all know him by now. His name. Everybody getting tired of him because he plays for the freaking Suns. But he's even more efficient this year. He's averaging 22 points a game on 29
Oh,
minutes per game. He's not really much of a passer or rebounder, but he's just efficient. He's averaging a steal per game. And shooting 51% from the field, it's a shooting guard. That's ridiculous.
yeah. I mean, as you said, I accidentally put up Isaiah Austin, but that's fine. No one will notice that. So yeah, I had Isaiah Taylor down as my lock for the Western Conference as well. Just his numbers are just ridiculous. I mean, what a pickup by the Suns, the 21st pick of the 2020 draft. I mean,
Oh man, it's crazy. I don't know how they managed
it
to.
just puts us all to shame, really, doesn't it? But
Yeah, all of us to shame for sure.
um, yeah, I love his game. I think he reminds me, like, if I had to describe him as a player, he reminds me of like do you remember Rip Hamilton for the Detroit Pistons?
Yeah,
In a player who will never shoot a 3-point really, but he just gets in and out of like that just inside the arc, and he slashes and gets his points ugly really. but he's so efficient at doing it. It's crazy, and comfortably deserves to be a starter on the Western Conference, and that's saying a lot considering the power in the Western Conference and the the veteran guards that teams have, and he's another player who's 23 years old, putting some of these guys to shame.
Yep, and I think I think eventually the Suns gonna have some cap problems and more minutes as a result. And I can't imagine. I think this guy can lead the league in scoring if Doug really wants to.
Yeah. If he played more, it had his minutes up to 40 points per game. He could probably set scoring records, I think, for the
Yep.
CSL. Okay, so I had him down as well. So that's a big tick to say that, yeah, we agree on that one as well. And so far, we're 6-6 at the moment. So this is crazy. But the other guard that I have down is James Harden. And
Okay.
so probably one that you might not have down this year because the Warriors have been up and down in terms of performance, and Harden's numbers have dipped a little bit. But just to put it into context, this guy was the MVP last year in the league, and his numbers are still 22 points per game, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, off of 46% shooting and 40% from the 3-point range, which I think is his best performance from deep ever. So for me, yes, the Warriors are they've got a positive record. His scoring numbers are down, but he's going about his business as usual and still proving that he is one of the best scorers in the league.
Yeah. I didn't have him down as a starter. I have him in a reserve, but yeah, I can see it because the only reason I put him as a reserve because of the big injury he had.
Mm,
So he only played 35 games, which is more than half, way more than half
yeah.
than season still. But there's only reason I didn't give him the start, not because he didn't have as big of a sample size as the other guys I had. But he's definitely deserving to be All Star this year.
Yeah, no, I did look at his number of games, but he's only missed 15 or so, hasn't he now? So um, for me, I still gave him a nod. But I mean, who did you have down as the other starter?
The other starter I had was your boy Marcus Smart. You guys are 31-19 this year. Smart is doing what he always does, being the leader of this cohesive unit. He's averaging 20 points a game, 4 assists, 4.6 rebounds, 2.1 steals per game, shooting 50% from the field, 80% from the free throw, and just playing stellar defense as usual. So I think he finally deserves a chance to be a starter.
Yeah, I mean, I obviously biased, but I think he's been a bit unlucky because he's been in the Western Conference for a little while now.
Yeah.
And he's had to deal with players like Harden and Durant's if you're picking him as a guard, and
Mm-hmm.
Bledsoe and Thompson and
There's a
Paul
lot of them.
George. There's a lot of them. I mean, yeah, he's a bit unfortunate because now that Harden and co are kind of starting to show signs of decline,
Yep.
Isaiah Taylor's just decided to step up and become like the best scorer in the league. So
Yeah.
I feel he's been a bit hard done by, and he'll be one of those players. I think when he eventually retires, that he'll be one of those players that everyone remembers as a good player, but don't necessarily remember him as being a great player. Does that make
Mm-hmm.
sense? Because he goes under the radar a lot.
Yeah, he does.
Um,
The whole team does. The whole team does. That's how I feel.
so I'll tell you another guy who I had down as who I looked at quite considerably instead of James Harden, and that's Malik Monk of the Houston
Yeah.
Rockets.
3-point gunner.
Yeah, the 3-point gunner. But he's putting off some good assist numbers now as well. 3.7 assists off of 1.8 turnovers, which is not bad for a shooting guard, considering he's not known for his abilities to do that. But he is a complete and utter gunner. There's no denying it. That's where he makes most of his points from. But his numbers are pretty solid. Houston have been playing really well this year, and for me, I didn't put him in because he is. It's harsh to say this because he is just a gunner, and that's why I didn't put him in. Is because his overall game I felt didn't necessarily warrant a starting position, but I have put him down as a reserve. I don't know if you had him in consideration as well.
I think I had him as a wild card because, like I said, he's definitely a offensive one-sided player, but he's still putting up some really good numbers. He's still very young. He's putting up those kind of numbers in what 30.5 minutes per game. I mean, this guy's averaging, let's see, 12.63 points per game, and he's shooting 42%. I mean, this guy is just the new Klay Thompson, pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much. And you could probably argue he's playing better than Klay Thompson this year.
Yeah,
Uh, yeah.
it's crazy.
So, yeah, I guess the interesting thing about the Western Conference is that we've talked about some players here. None of them are point guards.
Yeah, there is one guy that I would say I was gonna pick up as well, point guard wise, and that's John Wall in the Denver Nuggets. Good old John Wall. Everybody knows him. I mean, he's not being too efficient this year, but he's putting up really good assist numbers. Probably his career high. He's averaging 8.8 assists per game, 20.9 points, 3.7 rebounds, and 1.2 blocks as a guard. That's crazy.
Yeah, that is pretty crazy.
Yeah.
And yeah, I I wonder how much of that is the system that they play. I don't know enough about the Nuggets and how they play at the moment to justify that comment really. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think the thing that worried me about him was his shooting numbers.
Yeah.
It's almost becoming borderline chucker mode, isn't it, and brick mode. So that was the thing that put me off. I mean, I have got Wall down, I think, as a wild card in my list, but
Yeah.
yeah, he is playing really well. Just I felt there were other guards who warranted a start really. Um,
Okay.
so I guess we're kind of going to come to a point here where we're both agreeing on Isaiah Taylor, but I
Yep.
guess we're going to agree to disagree on the other guard position.
Yeah. You want Monk and I want Smart, so that's the
Yeah.
difference.
No, I want James Harden. I don't want
Oh
Monk.
yeah, Harden. That's right, Harden. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so let's move on to the forward positions.
Okay.
Who have you got down first?
Forward position wise, I was looking at Kevin Durant. I'm definitely he's doing having a really good year this year, especially when James Harden went down. He was the only one carrying the team. Like I was keeping track of the team trying to make an offer for him a while back, and I looked at his box score when Harden was out. He's putting up the old Kevin Durant stat lines. He can drop him like 30, 40 points consistently. Just absolutely unstoppable. And you look at his numbers this year, he's actually staying healthy, playing all 53 games. He's averaging 24.5 points per game, 8 rebounds, shooting 50% of the field, 91% of free throws, and 44% of the 3-point line. I mean, this guy just balling out, being super efficient.
Yeah, there's no denying that he deserves an All-Star nod this year. It's just amazing what he can do when he stays healthy, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah. When there's a
just
GM that takes care of him and he's actually healthy, yeah, it makes a big difference.
hey, we took care of him. He just went down. He went
Oh
down.
yeah, that's right. He died for you guys.
He
Forgot
he
about that.
completely died. Um, and he has. I mean, to be fair, he has bounced around a lot because he has just collapsed on people. But seems like in Golden State, maybe their physios have just got the magic touch with him because I don't know how he's staying fit, but he's playing 32 minutes per game, which is high for him really.
Mm-hmm.
But it's great to see that he is actually putting up some really good numbers and kind of still just proving to the league at the age of 33. Hang on up, I'm still here. I'm still about. I'm still one of the better players in the league.
Yep. He's definitely having a great year. I mean, most of the people were like pretty much like, "Oh man, he's done. He's getting old. He's regressing. Got the injury curse for like 3 years in a row." But hey, he's definitely deserved to be a comeback player of the year in my opinion. This guy is just balling out.
Yeah, absolutely. Comeback player, definitely. And I had him down as well, so we're going to agree on him as well, I think. So one of the other players that I had down is probably an easy one for you as well in terms of going to go back to the Houston Rockets and talk about Mr. Karl Anthony Towns.
Good old cat.
I mean, we can sit here and say that his scoring numbers aren't great, but then we're saying they aren't great, but he's hitting 18 points per game off of 52% shooting. But the bit that I really love about Karl Anthony Towns is his assist numbers, his block numbers, and his steal numbers. So an assist a game, 2 blocks per game, and just over a steal per game, which shows really, really good defense. And the ability to keep the offense ticking over. The only bit that really disappoints me is his rebound numbers. 8.6 to me that seems low for a 7-footer who predominantly plays at center.
Yeah. I mean, like I agree with you on that one too because I had him down as a starter. Usually it's with Porzingis, but Utah's having a terrible years. I didn't pick
Yeah,
Porzingis.
yeah,
But Cat's having great years in the elite 3.5 turnover force per game club. 1.3 steals, 2.2 blocks. He's right there as a center. That's impressive. Like, because not many centers can get that many steals. Period. And he's only doing this in what 27.7 minutes per game. So he's one of those guys.
he is. Yeah,
His numbers could be limited because of the GM just managing his health. So it's like it's kind of like one of those like Boston, Miami style.
yeah, that's true. I mean, I would like to see if they just bumped up to like say 32 minutes per game, just to see if he can get over that 10 rebounds per game.
I
Because
think
then
he
I
can. Yeah, I think he
yeah,
can do it.
because then I think that he would then I think probably be a 20-10-2-1 guy, which is elite. So
Yep.
for me, I had him down as a nod because if you look at the minutes and you look at some of the stats he's pulling up in those minutes, it's just crazy. So yeah, I guess another nod for us both there, Durant and Karl Anthony Towns. So who was the other forward that you had?
I'm actually going Michael Kidd Gilchrist. It's a little surprising pick here. But at a power forward position, he's averaging 15 points a game, 1.8 assists, 8 rebounds per game, 1.3 steals, 1.3 blocks, shooting 56% from the field. So he's being really efficient. He's a stud defender. We all know that. And in my opinion, he's the one of the big factors the Thunder is doing so well again this year.
Yeah, we know his defense is excellent and he's putting up probably some. If I say Phoenix Suns numbers, I don't want to sound that as offensive to OKC, but he is putting up numbers that we used to see when he was at the Suns.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, I can see certainly why you've picked him. I went a slightly different tack though. I went for someone on the same team, but just for different reasons. So I went for Mr. Stanley Johnson.
Okay.
So
The controversial one.
it's a controversial one, and people are going to be again throwing stuff at their computer, going "you idiot." But uh, for me, look, we know Stanley Johnson is like is like Marmite. You either love him or you absolutely hate him. And for me, I think he just brings so much to Oklahoma City team, and not because he's a great scorer, but he is a borderline chucker. But because of the other stuff he brings to the game. So yes, he's 23 and 10 and 1 in assists, but for me, the factor with him is that he's putting up good numbers that are all-star level numbers, in my opinion. But the other thing is that he causes so many problems for the other team. And if you look at OKC, you look at where they get their wins from. For me, it's he kind of helps with that in terms of he fouls other teams out.
Oh, he does. Yeah.
He causes a bit of a nightmare. And for me, I fancy putting him in there just to see what he would do in an All-Star game as a starter. To be honest with you, because
Yep.
I almost want to throw him in there just to see if he can prove people wrong, if that makes sense. Because he's putting up good numbers and he warrants a vote in my opinion. But I kind of just felt, well, let's just see what he does if we give him 25 minutes in an All-Star game.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, I can see he's kind of reminds me of Kevin Love. A couple of years ago when he was in prime. Love was one of those guys put up like 23, 24, 11, and 12, but he shoots like 42, 43% of the field. He's one of those guys who also get to the line like 12 times a game. So I can see it. Like I remember Love was one of the MVP candidates because his ability to just draw so many fouls is ridiculous. He might be chucking
Yeah,
shots, but
yeah.
he's also fouling the whole team out and hitting the free throws. So
Yeah, I mean he's averaging 12 free throws a game, which is brilliant if you're strategizing and you're OKC because you can just go, oh, I'll just throw him on whoever their biggest threat is and cause him into foul trouble, and then I'll put a defender on him and balance it off. And
yep.
just for me that was my interesting pick really this year. I
I
went
mean, you
for.
think about it, like imagine this is a real live game. I can see Stanley Johnson, one of those guys, just like pad his stats. So, like, I'm gonna miss a couple of shots here because I'm not gonna grab the rebounds. But okay, here we go. I got double double now. We're good. I'm gonna play serious now. One of those. Just I can just I don't know. It's a funny moment. I just kind of see him like missing like 3 or 4 shots in a row, just grab his own rebounds and dunk it back in.
Yeah, yeah. I kind of see him as this is the reason why I you kind of alluding to it is that so I look at the guys that we've sort of selected for starters for the All-Star game, and to me they're all really professional. Got their career going on. They're all about getting the result, getting the win, and to me Stanley Johnson is just like the joker in the pack because you can throw him in there and he'll be like, right, I'm gonna prove that I am as the best player in the league, and just to see him either implode or just like put up like 50 points or something and not let
Yeah,
anyone else have a shot kind of thing. For me, I just thought that'd be a fascinating thing to see, really.
yeah. He's the epitome of Andrew's personality. Let's be honest. That's how he is.
Is that
That's a
because,
spirit animal.
yeah, that's probably because of the media that he's done around Stanley Johnson, which has probably made us think that, yeah, he is basically the incarnation of Andrew in the OKC uniform. But,
Yeah, pretty
um,
much.
yeah, so, okay, so you've gone MKG, I've gone Stanley Johnson. Did you have anyone else down on your list as a player who could help us settle a score and go with them, or are you adamant that it's MKG?
There's one more guy that's really close from the Phoenix Suns again. The other Isaiah Austin. He's averaging 18 points a game, 3.5 assists as a big man, which is huge, and 6 rebounds per game, 1 steal, and 2.2 blocks. 52% from the field and almost 43% from the three. So he's pretty much like a low Markkinen, a weaker rebounding but better defending Markkinen. So
Yeah, yeah, I could see that.
and then Phoenix classic team. Those guys just don't play. Nobody plays more than 30 minutes a game. So I wonder how he will do if he gets like 35, 36 minutes a game.
Yeah, especially if he's averaging just over 2 blocks on 30 minutes a game.
Yeah,
He,
and a steal too.
yeah, that's insane. Yeah, okay, I can go with that. I can say let's take Stanley Johnson out and let's put Austin in instead. Uh,
Yeah, Austin's having a good year.
he is, yeah, yeah. But Phoenix are having a good year as usual, really, aren't they?
Yeah.
But
I mean, if one more thing is that if Anthony Davis didn't die, he was definitely be a shoe in. We don't even
oh
talk about
yeah, yeah, yeah. There's no point even questioning that because
yeah, but he died, so
he did. Yeah, yeah. He's always a lock, isn't he? I mean, it's a shame. I have to say, just it's a shame for the Pelicans because they put so much effort in. It reminds me of the real life Pelicans actually because
oh
they put
yeah,
so much effort into trying to build a team around Anthony Davis with like the limited resource they have available, and slightly different in real life. Obviously, Anthony Davis just decided he wanted to trade halfway through the season and basically didn't play again. But in this situation, he's just got injured and
yeah,
just killed that franchise for the entire season and. It's tough. It's tough. I mean, the good thing for the Pelicans in CSL is that he's contracted for another 2 years. So, worst
yeah.
case scenario, you've got another 2 years to try and do something with him.
It's just unfortunate. I hate to see it.
Yeah, yeah. When the team tries to make the playoffs and tries to build around a player, it's tough to watch when those kind of things happen.
Yep.
Okay, so I think we've kind of got our Western Conference team together. So we're going to disagree on one of the guard positions, Harden or Smart, but it looks like we're going Isaiah Taylor, Kevin Durant, Isaiah Austin. So we've got a bit of an Isaiah Phoenix Suns theme going on here, and then Carl Anthony Towns. So uh, we've come to a bit of a consensus this year, Gary, which was a you know progress from last year when I think we had out of the 10 positions, we had probably about 8 disagreements, and it ended up being like an hour and 45-minute podcast and us arguing over positions. But yeah, we're getting there. We're getting there. So
Yeah.
I guess to wrap this up, is there anyone out of either conference that we haven't mentioned who you just want to give a shout out to for an all-star vote, similar to what I said about Siakam, in that probably a player who won't start but deserves to be in the recognition for a reserve position or a wild card position?
Yeah, let's go to Eastern Conference. I think the one guy that people probably don't really talk about, and I mentioned it before earlier, is George DePaula. He's averaging 14.5 points per game, 8.2 assists per game on 1.9 turnovers a game. Absolutely amazing assist to turnover ratio, while also grabbing 4 rebounds per game and shooting, 47% of the field, and a steal per game, too. He's pretty much doing it all. It's just unfortunate that the team is not really winning. So it's only 23-28 record. So
Yeah, yeah, I can kind of agree with you that it's a shame the Magic have been a bit up and down this year. If they probably were to have been, at the sort of 28, 27 win mark, he probably would get more of a nod from guys and more of a recognition when they look at who they're going to select for the All Star game. But his numbers are
yep,
looking pretty solid, and he's kind of starting to show after 6 years in the league that he can be a good starter.
yep,
I mean, he's come a long way from being selected and people saying he was going to be the next great point guard to being a player who was playing minutes in terrible teams to getting back on a team that is trying to push into the playoffs and putting up some good numbers again.
yeah. He's definitely fine. I think that these are the kind of numbers that he was expecting to put up whenever he first got in the league. So he's finally reaching those expectations.
Yeah, yeah. So I don't have any other guys I want to select other than anyone listening. Pascal Siakam, vote for him. Uh, give him a nod, give him a shout because he deserves a chance in the All Star game. He's putting up some great numbers. But Daria, it's been great to have you on. This was, like I said, this was quicker than last year. We kind of got to some agreement. Is this because the league's adapted, or have the younger guys come in and just torn the rule book up? I'm not necessarily too sure.
I think it's just if you look at a lot of more teams now, there's running that's big rotation, so it's easier to pick out guys that stand out with big numbers compared to those guys don't get as good numbers because they're playing less minutes. I think that's one of the reasons. Because everybody's worried about that big injury happening, so everybody's kind of like slowly scaling back their guys' playing time. And there are some teams that would just go balls out and play 34, 35 minutes a game. So that's the guys that we picked, guys that just stand out. So,
Yeah, yeah, that probably is the case, but it certainly helps us get to a decision quicker. And it's great to have you on. Best luck with the rest of the season, and let's see who out of the guys we've selected actually do make the All Star game.
yep, it's gonna be interesting because we're missing a few GMs, so the vote's gonna get tight.
True, true. Your vote will count this year, so anyone listening,
Yeah,
get your vote in.
for sure. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks.